Louis Theroux's Inside the Manosphere gives us a look behind the scenes of some of the internet's fever swamps. He meets with some of the online Manosphere's biggest names like Sneeko, Myron Gaines, and the other guys? He gets them to talk about their business model, and we get to hear them saying things that we've known to be true for a long time, but it was interesting to hear straight out of the horse's mouth how it's all basically a grift aimed at alienated young men. I overall enjoyed the documentary and thought it had some interesting parts. The purpose of this video is merely expanding a bit on his analysis. Louis' interview technique often includes just shutting up and letting the subject talk, asking them the occasional prying question to get them to say something interesting.
Does the term matrix mean anything to you?
And it was quite effective since these men really love the sound of their own voice. The influencers are often mobbed in the streets by young male fans who talk about how much of an impact they've made on their lives. The fans often display certain obsessions with money, status, and women, all signifiers of success under capitalism. These young men are often from a middle or upper middle class background, having certain comforts in their lives but sensing an uncertainty in their own financial future, and an immense pressure to perform to a certain standard and using acceptable means to achieve that. This is what sociologists call strain theory. Coined by Robert Merton, strain theory, simply put, claims that when people feel pressure to adhere to certain societal expectations, they can go one of a few different ways to achieve those expectations. The conformist does what everyone else does and plays the game the way it's supposed to be played and hopes to find success. In other words, accepting both the means and the final goal. This is by far the most common. The ritualist accepts the means but not the final goal. They play the game, but they either know deep down that they will never achieve their dream, or they just don't care anymore. They stay in a shitty job because it pays well enough to live on as long as they possibly can and just keep their heads down, deriving purpose from the ritual of the means. The retreatist rejects both the means and the goals and fucks off into the forest to start mailing explosives to people he deems dangerous. Okay, maybe he just tries to live off the land or something. Most of them are not the Unabomber. Some also just become addicted to substances and completely check out. The rebel replaces the means and goals with his own, making his own purpose. Capitalism encourages individualist looking out for number one type of thinking, and it's common that the rebel rejects that. These are often the people who organize protests and work towards building dual power by means of mutual aid. This is where a lot of the Manosphere guys think they land, and it's where they have been placed by some others. The innovator accepts the goals but rejects the means. They find other, often less legitimate means of achieving them. These are grifters, drug dealers, and financial criminals. This is where the Manosphere's higher-ups land, the tops of the pyramid, if you will. I'd argue that the patrons of the Manosphere fit better into the conformist column than the rebel column. They accept the goal, which is money, status, and women, and they accept the means, which is hustling hard and eventually becoming big boy CEO man. They're not rejecting anything. They're conforming even harder than most people. A large part of the Manosphere is effectively a pyramid scheme with a few big names at the top. Those would certainly be the innovators, but the rubes at the bottom are accepting both the means and the goals. To them, capitalism just means free markets, and they're being taught how to play the game. Capitalism, while arguably dead, is being met with large-scale scrutiny due to a variety of factors. Financial recessions caused by a few rich dudes trying to get even richer, soaring cost of housing, declining quality of life, declining quality of consumer products, the resurgence in fascism, constant wars to appease the bloodthirst of the military-industrial complex, and an ever-shitifying online experience.
It's very important. It needs to be nice at first, but then...
Yes. Yes! What do you say? Okay.
The patrons of the Manosphere only seem to be rejecting the backlash to capitalism by adopting a hyper-capitalist mindset, valuing the grind above all else, some kind of grind mindset. If only there was an obnoxious portmanteau for that. Many of these young men are being taught values that the teacher of those values does not believe in themselves. Louis points this out a couple times in the documentary and is met with defense. These are influencers who make a lot of money when they are talked about negatively, because the attention economy has decided that all engagement is good. Hate views are still views, and angry comments are still engagement. They're just rage bait in human form, and the hypocrisy is kind of the point. The only thing they believe in is money. The only values they have are Lambo and big house. It's just internalized capitalism. The means the influencers use are grifting their audience, and they have more in common with the engineering student who sells weed on the side than they do with Warren Buffett. Their audience sees their lifestyle as aspirational, But aside from Andrew Tate's grifting school, they often learn legal, albeit ethically dubious, methods for making money. They are the ultimate conformists, the ideal good boys who provide cover for the ultra-wealthy who are the cause of their alienation to begin with. They see the same problems that we do, they're just confused as to where to point the blame. They harken back to a fictional past while striving for a world where women are merely servants. In their world, they have to be tough, manly men, and everything that doesn't fit their narrow and often arbitrary definition of it is to be met with social control in the form of mockery or personal attacks. They value strong men, a strict adherence to specific values, selective populism, rejection of modernity, and want to return to tradition. Ah, shit, it's all fascism, isn't it?
Does the term matrix mean anything to you?